But one of the things that comes up a lot is how does it change the metrics in terms of what you now measure? Have you had to, because the one that I always come to is like mean time to resolution, or how long is the interaction for the customer to come through and get that. And essentially that's kind of gone from something that would be weeks to days to what is it? Hours,
So
minutes,
we don't use a measurement like that for Help Lightning, because it's not impactful for our business in that way. We use it for, we use more for understanding what's going on with the technicians. We can see a reduction in the call times when we use it. And I know we're going to talk more about it later in this interview, but the the adoption piece and getting buy-in from the agents and getting them to utilize it, um, part of understanding how it impacts call time was part of that adoption period, and kind of overcoming some of their concerns and working through that with them allowed us to be as successful in our implementation as what we were.
yeah, yeah. So it's kind of those metrics very much weighted around the employee
Hmm.
engagement piece and the
Yeah.
success there. Yeah, yeah. I mean, kind of building on that, and the other piece that often, in fact, we did a piece of research recently around this, and just towards the tail end of last year. And like I said at the beginning, a huge amount of people have kind of trying to almost to phrase it badly, Claire. They're trying to catch up to where you guys are at very, very rapidly because they had, like the last 12 months with all the lockdowns across the world, companies suddenly had to start thinking, how can we deliver service in a zero touch environment? And so we saw a huge amount of companies kind of land there, a lot actually, overwhelming majority using the phone and basic rudimentary tools. Still only a small percent, I think it was 19% using tools like Help Lightning or other augmented reality solutions. But the one thing that came out was we gave our respondents, there was about 180 respondents in this study across the world, and we gave them all a choice of how they price it up, how they view pricing on remote service. And what was really interesting was out of all of those options, which were various but four main ones, there was almost an even split. And it said to me that there's a lot of people that have arrived at this position, see the benefits, see the potential for the tools, but they haven't quite got to the point where they've understood how to factor this in within the wider service portfolio. Do they price it as a separate offering? Do they charge a premium because it's quicker resolution? Do they charge less because you're not sending an engineer, so there's less cost roll? These are all big questions. A lot of people smarter than me trying to work them out. How have you kind of approached that whole pricing piece and understanding where the value proposition lies in this with the customers?
So for us, we've kind of leveraged the use of Help Lightning as a almost a marketing tool. When we have executive meetings with Walmart or Target or any of our big customers, our CEO has done demos of Help Lightning with their executive teams so that they see what the store's interactions with our help desk are like. And it's being on the cutting edge of technology and being able to say you're an industry leader and being able to show that you're investing in the right things to help the customers. Um, that's the value proposition for us. We didn't change our billing model at all for our customers when we integrated Help Lightning. We didn't increase their cost, because while we're absorbing the cost of Help Lightning, we're also seeing the savings associated with it. So for us, it was a wash,
Yeah,
in that way.
I suppose it's going to this point that we've been. I think has always been there, but it's certainly been something that's growing across the last 5 6 years. Is this very firm understanding of service is a core differentiator, and we seem to have that quite cyclically. And particularly, I think what's interesting. I think back to like 2008, where product margin had gone through the floor because we were in a huge global downturn. Pretty much going to be heading that way again unless we have a nice V-shaped back recovery. And when you get to that point, service becomes a very clear differentiator between competing companies, because there is no margin to compete on, so cost can't be a margin. And then we built up, and the economy gets stronger. But that I feel that resonated and that stayed, and service has been that differentiator. And it sounds like that's what's coming through with you guys as well. It's like this is just our way of saying, it's not just the products, which, as we touched on, exceptional kind of uptime rates anyway, but that service that reinforces that, that's a massive differentiator, and that's what allows you to win, the blue chip Walmart, etc. clients. I'm conscious I may be re-paraphrasing what you said and putting words in your mouth. So just confirm for me that I'm on the right track with that one.
You absolutely are.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense, and it's an interesting way to view the evolution of what is remote assistance. In terms of how the team adapted, and we'll touch on this in a couple of different angles, but I think the first place I'd like to look at is what makes, who do you put at the other end? Who is the expert that you put at the other end? That is going to be taking this. Obviously, you had remote assistant layers already in place, but was there a kind of a specialist within the field workforce that you were like, right, this is the kind of person we want to be able to interact with more customers and be able to help engineers fellow engineers whilst they're out in the field as well if they're stuck? Is there a specific makeup of that person that becomes the expert on the other side of Help Lightning?
For us, it was, we rolled it out for our entire help desk, which is not a large number of people. We have about 85 agents on our help desk. And we put this tool in their hands immediately as a whole. And, we did a training class on it and sent them on their way. Said, let's do this from now on, and here are the reasons why, right? Explain the why and the benefits to the customer, to the business, and to them, and then just reinforcing that.
It's always interesting as well when a company does that and they reinforce. I like the fact that it's here's the reasons why. So it's not just a tool we're forcing upon you. We're going to explain it to you. We're going to explain why it's good for the company, because a lot of often that can get overlooked, and suddenly if you don't say, well, look, this is why we're doing it, it's good for the company, then it can be there's a layer of honesty that kind of makes that more powerful. But then equally, this is why it's important for you, and this is how it's going to empower you. It's change management 101 to a degree, but it's something that still gets a little bit glossed over. With regards to that, just to kind of move away ever so slightly from the technology, just I want to focus on that one piece around that the help team. And is there a progression there? Because this is something that a lot of companies are looking at the moment as well, and something I've looked at with augmented reality is a lot of organisations in different sectors, again across the world, facing kind of an aging workforce crisis. A lot of engineers, it's harder to get people into those roles, and a lot of engineers start to approach kind of retirement age. And it seems a very natural progression to be able to say, well, you don't have to travel around the country or the state or whatever it is so much. You can now do this work from a central location and help younger engineers. Is there a natural kind of progression from the field to the central HQ, or do you have anything in place like that?
That hasn't been something that we've noticed, but that's not really our model. So that's kind of the challenge with that. If we were in the business of servicing and doing field servicing of our units, and had to manage that workforce ourselves, I would probably be more inclined to try to drive things in that direction. But as under our model, we use third parties for our field servicing, and we just manage their performance. So it's more of a trying to make the initial customer interaction better for us, and identifying again and diagnosing the proper parts that need to be replaced or what issue the customer is having, so that when we do send that technician to the site, they have the tools that they need to make sure that they're able to resolve the issue on the first attempt.
I suppose it's to a degree as well, if you're kind of using that third party workforce model, making sure all of those bits are there, and making sure you have that correct diagnosis, and you have that they have the right, all of that is almost even more important because these guys are going out. They may be third parties, but they're representing your brand.
Hmm.
And the customer, I assume the customer essentially sees it as your brand. They want you to fix it. It's you that they're going to pick up the phone to.
That's
So
right.
all of that kind of correct triage must be even more important.
It is absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And do you with the help, like, does that work with the third party engineers as well? Just to clarify, all the technicians.
It does.
So
We use it.
if
We
they're
use
on
it with
site,
the customer and with the technicians. Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And again, yeah, I suppose it's putting a little bit more control. Would you say that's the right way of phrasing it? It gives your organisation a little bit more control when there's a third party in to be able to, or a safety net even.
Yeah, it's just oversight, right? We get to inspect what we expect in real time often, which is helpful. It's the just like with talking to a customer, you've told them to do something, they said they've done it, you don't have visual confirmation that it was done. You feel like if they had done what you'd asked, they would have a different outcome, and it's not happening. So when you run into that, hey, this doesn't seem to be working. Let's just make sure we're going through the right steps. I'm going to send you the link. Let's look at this on Help Lightning, and make sure we're all on the same page, right? And that's how you resolve those issues, and it's been very successful for us.